Hey loves, welcome to my channel. I'm Amanda, the owner of AC Signature Wigs, and today I'm going to show you how I construct a wig unit using a ventilated cap and a sewing machine. This is the hair I'm using is from a unit that I previously created, but I deconstructed it and chose to go ahead and recreated on, or using, shall I say, a ventilated wig cap. The mesh dome cap that I tested out was trash, and we ain't got time for that. So, as you can already see, your first step will be going ahead and putting on your guidelines. Usually you want your guidelines to be about an inch apart, no more than an inch apart. You can go smaller, but especially using a ventilated wig cap, the back of the wig cap, y'all can see later on in the video, you'll see 3 straps in the middle of it. Once you remove the plastic off of this ventilated cap, your stretching is beyond, it's very, very stretchy. So we'll get into that soon. Secondly, you want to go ahead and place your closure. I can't talk. You want to go ahead and place your closure on the front of the wig cap, and you want to make sure you pull the lace just a little bit, maybe a couple centimeters down in front of it, and you don't want to set it directly on top, because once you pin it in the back of it, it's going to slide a little bit. So of course we don't want our realistic hairline to look like we bald headed. We done lost our edges, so to speak. So you want to go ahead and pull that down a little bit in the front. That way when it goes to pin in the back, it will be even. Next, you want to go ahead and thread your needle. I prefer using the curved needle, as you can see. It's easier to get under the lace and to, wrap it around the closure as well. So once you get that all threaded and good to go, you want to go ahead and cut off the excess thread shown here. Less is more. It really doesn't matter at this point the way you sew or how you choose to sew, because when you go ahead and sew on your last weft, you are going to lay it directly against each other, and you're going to use a cross stitch. Is what I usually use as a cross stitch when I go ahead and blend my last weft of my unit and my closure together. It leaves, more smooth, sleek, seamless appearance, so to speak. Now, as you're sewing on the tracks, as you're sewing on the wefts themselves, starting from the nape of the cap and working your way up, you will use a regular stitch, a straight stitch. The reason being is when it comes to removing that plastic, it's going to be 10 times horrible to get that plastic off, versus using a straight stitch. You're going to be able to remove that plastic easy, and you're going to be using tweezers. So you got to imagine taking some tweezers and you got zigzag stitch, or stitch that's not in line, and you got to be able to determine your regular sewing thread stitching compared to the factory or manufacturer who makes your wig cap that you're using, in order to make sure you do not separate your dismantle, shall we say, your unit that you just sewed, that took you 45 minutes to an hour to create. Once you get the hang of it, it may take you just 30 minutes to make a unit. So practice is key. Then also, once you get your closure unit sewn down, you can make sure, double check it. As you can see, you want it flat all the way around. Then you want to go ahead and finish on drawing on your guidelines. And your last guideline would be that last weft that you would lay against your closure. So once that's all done, ready to go, you want to go ahead and get your sewing machine threaded, ready to go, as mine is already, because I do this quite often. You want to go ahead and line your first guideline up with the needle in the foot pad, I believe is what it's called. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then you want to go ahead and start your sewing. When you first do it, you want to go ahead and, when you first apply your weft, you want to back stitch on both ends. And you want to do that all the way through the unit to secure it. Because you don't want, you don't want your customer to get it and they be like, oh my God, it's lifting on, both sides. And then they paid $200-300, hell, even $100 with you, and your quality is bad. And you always want to double check your quality too, before sending out any inventory to anyone. Again, this is pretty repetitive. You're going to line your needle up with your guideline. You're going to do a couple of stitches forward, back stitch, couple stitches forward. And usually I do it about once, maybe twice. It depends on, you can manually look at it, or manually, you can physically look at it and see, okay, is this lifting or is it not? Now again, this is just a unit, a previous unit that I deconstructed, and I'm using the actual hair to create me another one, because this is a unit that I've created for myself. So this is my hair. If you notice any gaps in between any wefts or anything that I'm laying down, then I got to grab a piece to finish off maybe another 2 inches of the cap. It's because I had removed it from the mesh dome that was terrible trash and chose to go ahead and put it on a ventilated cap. Now I do offer my customers 2 options on my website, acsignaturewigs.com, wigs with a Z on the end.com. And I do offer my customers the option of go ahead and either purchasing a ventilated wig cap or a mesh dome wig cap. Now the mesh dome wig caps that I have is not the trash ones that I'm talking about in my video. They are of quality, and I have no problem with them. I just happen to had waiting on my order to come in, and had another one laying around, and turns out it was garbage. So needless to say, I'll continue using what I use. Alright, so we are almost at the, I would say, midpoint at this point, as you can see, of completing this cap construction. You just want to keep going. Okay, here's what I was saying, that I had to complete, pull out a weft that was, maybe 2 or 3 inches and go ahead and add on it. Because once you get your bundles and you unravel them, you're going to, double your wefts, which makes the process 10 times easier. It's prepping as if you were cooking dinner. You want to prep your food to cut down the cooking time. So, doubling your wefts and everything. And then I constructed on the mesh dome cap first, and then I deconstructed it, took it apart, and I had to cut. So the cap sizing is slightly differently made. You got your dome cap that's all the way around of elastic band, and these ventilated caps, you got the ear tabs on them and everything. So it's not going to be 100% even. So, and even sometimes when you are constructing wig units for your customers, you're probably going to after you're done, you might have to look back. There's nothing wrong with this. You might have to go look through and be like, oh, there's, you know, a bigger gap than what I would like. It's okay to, you know, fill it in a little bit because you want quality. You want it, you don't want the customers to complain. So I never had an issue, you know, with, you know, filling it in if need be, but I don't have to do that often either, and you wouldn't either once you get the hang of everything. And you'll see, once you use them tracks once, you'll know that you're not going to have to, you know, go back and keep filling in anything. And usually where the filling comes into play is at the top of it. Maybe weft, about 2 or 3 wefts, about 2 wefts from the top from your closure. You know, you'll see it like it's a little thin, you know, and that just secures the fact that if the wind blows, you know, it's not going to show any wefts or netting that's, you know, associated with the cap construction or unit itself. All right, so we are, let's see, from the looks of things, we are about, I would say about 2 or 3 wefts away of completing this cap construction here. Zoom in a little bit there so y'all can see. Now, some people, when it comes to your closure and applying that on there, some people choose to go ahead and apply the closure on and just by pinning it and not sewing it down right away, and go ahead and draw on their guideline around there to where it would be, and just unpinning it and removing it, because some may feel like it can get in the way. Or you can just go ahead and sew it down. I mean, it's totally up to you what's easier for you. If you feel like that hair from the closure is going to get in the way, you know, you can braid it down, clip it down and everything. And it depends on my mood. I'll go back and forth. So I do believe we are on our last and final track here. And you want to make sure it not on top. Do not lay it directly on top. As you can see, I spread that. See, it's a little bit hard for you guys to see, but you want to lay it directly together, like line it up with your last line that last weft up with your closure, and then you're done. So the next step after this would be removing the plastic with tweezers and some simple styling.